I'm going through a process. It's quite painful in a way, because partly it's letting go of a failed idea, which,
it was a dream at some point as well, wasn't it? That's the thing.
That's right.
Idea. It's going to be something. I can do something. Yes, this is a dream.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamberton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode.
Today's guest, John Risby, has worked for himself most of his life. Originally a programmer and later a web developer, he eventually discovered affiliate marketing, where, like many of us, he made hay whilst the sun shone in the early days of AdWords, including a very nice profit from the incredibly annoying Crazy Frog ringtone. But behind this lurked a developing problem, and in 2004, John finally accepted he was an alcoholic and stopped drinking. He started the alcohol-free shop many years before alcohol-free drinks were fashionable. It's been a rewarding journey for John, but not without its ups and downs. John, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, John. Jason, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on
to be here.
There's
it's been a long time.
It has been a while, hasn't it?
We talked about this for about a year more.
I think
I'm going to tie you in and get you set off and here.
It's just typical that we finally do it with the lockdown, and what are you two like? But lockdown hair and well.
Yeah, we're recording this beginning of May, so kind of just at the end of the latest 3-week lockdown, which is due to be reviewed at the end of this week. We're probably expecting further restrictions, but at the moment we're not allowed to have haircuts. And I think, Jason, you've had a trim actually, haven't you?
I have, yes. My dear wife.
Sorry, Jason, I didn't realise.
Well, I have
you
this
will
mushroom
when it turns around, you will.
You know, you get those mushroom. If you do the short sides and back, then the top kind of ends up looking like a mushroom. So I kind of have a little bit of that going on. But otherwise, it's it wasn't such a bad cut, really. It's tidy.
It's much better than your son's.
Look at you.
Well, my son's, for that matter. Basins are back in fashion. That's all I'm saying. So, John, there's only one place we can start with this, and it's got to be the Crazy Frog. Now, I remember this happening at the time. I think we made a little bit of money on it, but I think you really cashed in. So for those listeners, which is probably quite a few of them actually, who don't know what the Crazy Frog is, and Jason did do a little
Ring, ding, 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 ding.
little impression there. What is the Crazy Frog, and how did you capitalise on that?
Well, as you say, it was probably the most annoying ringtone ever. It amazes me actually speaking to people. Recently, I've mentioned it to a couple of people, and they don't know what it is. And it's one of those when you realise, wow, we're quite old actually. It's 2020, and this was about, 2003?
Yeah.
Something like that. It was this very annoying ringtone, but hugely popular. And it was basically pure luck combined with a bit of, not planning. But I just had a feeling it was going to take off before it did. And it's back in the days when you used to buy domain names for affiliate marketing, when perhaps you shouldn't. So we bought crazyfrog.co.uk. And Jamster, the company that promoted it, they were given £5 for every sign-up. And they were fine with us using the domain name. So great. AdWords. I forget how much we paid, but the old days, 10p a pop, something like that.
If you're talking 2002, 2003, you're not paying very much, are you?
It was nothing. And it was £5 every time. Basically every time a kid signed up. That was the problem that we learned afterwards, was it was recurring fees on the phone, and that's why they were so happy to throw so much affiliate money around and TV advertising, etc. But from our point of view, it worked well. It was a nice little learner. Got the house extended and decorated.
So literally you have the house that Crazy Frog built?
I did do, yes. I ended up selling it, but yes.
So am I right in thinking that was like a number one hit?
I think so. I think so.
A remaking
it was based on that. Yeah, I think after the ringtone, they did release a single. I'm pretty sure it was number one. There was actually two. Sorry, when you say it's two waves, now you just think of the virus. But there was actually two waves of Crazy Frog. There was the first one, which we did well from. And then it died down, and we thought, oh, well, that was, money for nothing, basically. It was a good ride. And then it happened again. And that second one was way bigger. It was much bigger. That was the big one where you couldn't move for Crazy Frog ringtones everywhere. And then, of course, one day it just disappeared. And we still own the domain name, actually, just in case there's ever a sort of revival of Crazy Frog.
Did you see any
It's
spike?
possible.
It was featured in Betweeners, wasn't it? The second movie.
Oh, was it?
Or the first or the second movie? I think. Jay was doing his impressions of the Crazy Frog. Oh, actually, that was one of the episodes. He was doing his impressions of the Crazy Frog to cheer up one of the girls or something. And I don't know whether there was a kind of a spike.
No, to be honest, we've not had a site on the domain for years. You used to have something there, but all the links were dead, and you just move servers and leave it, don't you? But if it ever comes back, we've still got it, and then we'll probably get sued.
I'm sure it will. The
Like we should have
20th
been.
anniversary or something. It's 20th anniversary is coming up, so it could very
It
well.
is. It's frightening. Yeah,
You could create this rebirth of the Crazy Frog.
maybe it should.
Perhaps you should have a fan site. I'm sorry, we're going off down a tangent now. You could create a fan site of the Crazy Frog. Do you remember?
There actually was. There may still be. I've not searched it for years, but I remember around the time, a few years afterwards, there were like fan sites. And in a way, I should have sold the domain name to them. Yeah, got a few hundred extra or something, but anyway.
So when I was putting this together, and I was thinking about, obviously, we're going to talk Crazy Frog, and I thought, actually, I was developing a theory here. So obviously, we've known each other for decades now as a result of affiliate marketing. And when I think back to those early days, and you say 2001, 2002, 2003, that sort of period where it was just a golden time for, let me have an idea, let me register a domain name quite cheaply, because earlier than that, domain names were expensive, and it was like domains got cheap, AdWords came along and was cheap traffic, so we could buy cheap traffic. Google actually started to get very big, because I remember reading a book the other day about the top 10 search engines in 2000. Google wasn't even listed. So it was this sweet spot where it all came together. And I had this theory that actually, if you roll forward now to 2020, the guys I knew back then that were affiliate marketers that were, oh, look, there's this annoying little ringtone that people have got, and it's this company that don't really understand how this newfangled internet thing works. And then there's me, and I can go and register a domain name, knock a site up today. I can buy AdWords traffic also today. I can be earning money today. And I think it's that, I think if you come back now to 2020, I think those guys are better entrepreneurs because of that breeding they had. And I think it's the feedback loop, because literally you had an idea on the Monday and you'd just do it. You'd have idea, think it, do it. And you'd create the website, you'd buy the traffic, and it would either work, in which case you get the instant feedback loop of money, you've earned some commissions, well done, or it would fall on its arse and you'd go, okay, ditch that idea, next. And that's basically the process of being an entrepreneur, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's a very good theory, actually, because you're right. In those days, you did literally, and like you say, we've known each other virtually. I don't think we've ever met. If we have, I don't think we have we? No. But we've known each other for 20 years or so. But you used to have an idea, buy a domain name, throw up a website, and AdWords, and it could be earning money the next day or the same day, even in theory. It was what's the term they use now? Makes me sound old.
Minimum viable
term
product.
the young kids use. Minimal viable product type thing. Just getting things out fast. Does it work? No. Modify it or ditch it, whichever.
Thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's what we did. We just used to buy domain names all the time.
Mostly at 3 a.m, I found.
Yeah. But as you know, today's when you could buy domain names like, and I'm making this one up, but best plumbing supplies or hot water tap. In fact, we had boiling water tap. That was one we did own.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And it would rank in Google for that because the algorithm was so basic back in those days. Yeah.
We had some horrible websites, something like, imagine 5 hyphenated words.org.uk. And yep, that ranked in Google because it had the keywords in the domain name. And that was it.
Absolutely.
And it was just, I think we thought we were like Midas. We were just like, yeah, everything we touch turns to gold. But actually, if you saw our domain renewals 2 years later, those £1 million ideas we had were suddenly, I'm not paying £6 to renew that. What are you talking about?
Well, try 20 years later. I've still got quite a few of them.
I was going to
about 300 names, about 300 maybe.
300.
Which isn't that bad compared with some of the people we know. I don't know about what you two have got. But I know some people, we know some people between us. Mr. Duncan is one of the people I'm thinking of.
Have a listen to a previous episode with Clark Duncan. I think ended up becoming a nominate register for domain name purely to save money. His renewal because he had something like 15,000 domains.
Quite a lot of people did. Yeah. I mean, we actually looked into it at one point. I'm glad we didn't because, our sort of addiction to buying domain names did go down a little bit. But we still got so many that we just don't really need. In fact, I'm letting them drop at the moment. I'm going through a process. It's quite painful in a way because partly it's letting go of a failed idea, which it
was a dream at some point as well, wasn't it? That's the thing.
That's right.
Idea. It's going to be something I can do something with. Yes, this is a dream, and and then no, it's not.
Well, I mean, there's 2 things really. There's letting go of the ones that failed, that you tried, that failed, but you still sort of think, maybe could have done. And then there's the ones that you've never done anything with, which is a lot. Let's be honest, we've bought all of us so many domain names for ideas. And we've done nothing with them. And you just got to go, right, okay, I bought this in 2006 or whatever it was. I'm not going to do it. I've got other things to do that are worth more of my time and will, hopefully make more money. Just stop. Because it may only be whatever it is. I still say a £5 a year, but it's not anymore, is it? It's more than that. But when you've got 300 of them, it's quite a lot. It adds up. So, slowly but surely getting rid of them.
It's training yourself out of the... But I will do something with that one day. I still want to do that project. It's going to be the 2nd episode in a row that I've referenced Derek Sivers. But I listened to an interview with him recently, and he talked about he exited his main company, CD Baby, in 2008. And then he had this project that he wanted to do next. And he kind of started it, and he registered the domain name. He got a bit of a website live, and he registered some IP, and he did a bit of work on it, and then it got parked. And so I'll come back to that, next year. Next year it didn't happen. I'll come back to that soon. I still want to do that. 2010, 2011, 2012 happened. And Derek said he had a conversation last year, so 2019, so 11 years after starting this project. And he had a conversation with a friend. He said, I still want to do it. I still want to do that project. And his friend said, no, you don't. He said, I do. No, you don't. You don't want to do it. I do want to do it. And they had a little to and fro. And he said, look, if you wanted to do it, you'd have done it. And that was it. That was the argument over. It was like, well, actually, in 11 years, if it hasn't somehow risen to the top and become the most important task that I want to do, I don't really want to do it. And I think that's where letting a lot of the domain names go, probably.
Yeah, definitely. And it's backups as well in your mind, or certainly personally. You have a few where you go, that is a great idea, that could do well if I had time. So if this fails, I can fall back to that. And okay, maybe having 1 or 2 isn't a bad thing, but having 250 or 300 backup ideas, hopefully never get round to using those.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm thinking back to kind of those early days, and we always hark back to the golden days of affiliate marketing, but also thinking about the affiliate culture of kind of the early 2000s was, and I know obviously we never met up, but certainly when we went to a lot of the networking events, it was very London centric. There was lots of free bars. There were lots of champagne breakfasts, liquid lunches, and boozy nights.
There was a lot of money spent, wasn't there?
Bars.
Yeah.
How did that affect you? Because obviously we've mentioned in the introduction there that you kind of 2004 was it that you quit drinking?
Yeah, that's right. 2004, stopped drinking, and I think I went to my first affiliate get together within a few months of stopping. I think it was the same year anyway. The one I remember the most, because it was a weekend one, was one in Gloucester. Did you go to?
We did. Was that where the sailor Steve missed the boat?
Yes.
So for listeners
that's an image that I will never forget.
For listeners who weren't at the the affiliate industry 20 years ago, one guy within our network he was like in the merchant navy or something. He was like a volunteer naval officer, as well as running his main business, which was a bit of a strange business in itself, but that's a story for another day. And the idea behind this networking event was it was a boat trip. It was on a pleasure cruise down a canal in Gloucester. And this guy turns up in full naval uniform. He's got the hat, he's got some medals, he's got the salopettes, he's got everything, the whole, all the gear, but no idea, I think, was the coup, because guess who missed the boat?
I was going to say, I don't remember him being on the boat.
No, he missed the boat. Literally, we waved him off because he turned up late, like 5 minutes after we departed. We were a couple hundred yards down the canal, and he stood there going, wait for me.
All I remember was we were in the bar of Travel Lodge or something like that, where we were all staying, and it was late at night, and someone basically dared him. He must have been saying he's got this uniform, and someone dared him.
Room, wasn't it? Yeah.
And he went, hang on, and he went upstairs and came down in this full sailor's uniform, and it was just like, I'm sure I've stopped drinking. Sure I have. What's going on? Yeah, we'll never forget that. But yeah, sorry, to get to the point though. It was hard in a way, because, like you say, it was a heavy drinking industry.
Yeah,
there was a lot of money being made, a lot of money being spent on the profitable affiliates, and then some. Well, I won't say freeloaders, but there's always. It was a mix, wasn't it? It was good in a way. It was inclusive, because I certainly wasn't one of the top ones. I did okay, but I know many people did way better than I did. But so got there not drinking, feeling stressed, nervous. Never been good with crowds anyway. Even though I was drinking, but partly my drinking was to cope with stress and with situations that I didn't like. So to then put myself into a situation like that, which now I look, I think, well, it was just a weekend get together with people. It's nothing. I didn't have to give a big speech to 1,000 people, but at the time it felt very stressful. But it was good though, because I got through the weekend. I enjoyed it, had a good time, and of course I wasn't the only person not drinking. There were other people there who were staying sober, having a laugh.
Yeah.
And the ones who got really drunk did some embarrassing things. And there's one story which I won't tell you now. I think I've got a feeling I may have told you. Sorry?
I didn't think we'd met.
Well, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. It was someone else. But it was unforgettable, but thankfully brief from my point of view.
That's the thing, is that I think obviously if this was a podcast for old school affiliates, my God, the content we would have.
Absolutely.
We'd have to bleep everybody's name out, I think, or just change the names to protect the guilty.
Well, that's why I'm not telling you the story. But anyway, it was good, but it was stressful. But of course, getting sort of to more than just the drinking and being in a social setting. Business-wise, things transformed once I stopped drinking. Because when I was drinking, apart from just being unproductive 22 hours a day, at least, I was obviously making silly decisions. Going back to domain names, not just buying best-boiling-whatever anything. but buying the most ridiculous names that, when you're pissed at 3 a.m, you think, this is good. And I know we've all done it. Yeah, most of us have done it. But, I think I did it probably more than average. And say they're not been able to follow through with the business idea because, the idea was there, even though most were rubbish. But I was just too pissed or, pissed, then hungover, then a couple of hours of, I can work. And then I need a drink. And that's it. So once I stopped drinking, it really sort of helped focus my mind and, my activities in the business, which actually I think coincided with the Crazy Frog. In fact, it did. That was just after I'd stopped drinking. Yeah. So that was, I don't like to speak mystical because puts me off when people do. But it was almost like that happened for a reason. I'm not saying it did, but it's like, you've got sober here. Have this little Crazy Frog treat. That'll help you. And say I don't really believe that, but that's sort of how it worked out. Years of being pissed. What's that whole thing about good luck and being in the right place at the right time? Is it the more practice, the luckier I get?
Good fortune is where opportunity meets preparation, I think is the...
That's probably the one I'm thinking, yeah. And that's the point. I had all the components in the wrong places. And I had the drink that was, perhaps in the middle to mix a metaphor. But once I stopped drinking, things fell into place a bit. Yeah. And it wasn't overnight, but it made things so much easier.
Mm. Did that reinforce? Do you think that helped make the change permanent? Because actually, you, again, talk about feedback loop earlier, you've had that feedback loop of, okay, I'm going to quit drinking. Oh, look, I've suddenly made a really good business decision and I seem to be doing very well at the moment. Oh, I wonder if it's related.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I remember thinking that. Whether, hand on heart, I could say I stayed sober, 16 years nearly. I stayed sober 16 years since then because of that. I don't know. I think I was ready to stop anyway. And I think even if, things hadn't gone as well as they did at that point, excuse me, the mic's fallen off. Shall I just go back a second to that? Yeah, please.
Yeah. Just to leave up there, hang on. There we go. And John's going to come in now with a nice little pause for you.
What was I saying though? Oh, yeah. I mean, possibly it did help reinforce that, being sober can help, work properly. But whether I could say hand on heart, that was what kept me sober. I think I was ready to stop anyway. I think if things hadn't have gone as well as they did, hopefully I'd still be sober. It's impossible to say, obviously. But I remember thinking, wow, all these years of being drunk and, ups and downs, okay. But things are going really well now and I'm sober, so perhaps there is something in this.
What was the catalyst to becoming sober? What made you realise, actually, I need to kind of get out of this hole that I found myself in?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, really. It was a build-up of many years. I mean, I started drinking when I was 13, which isn't that unusual. Most people dabble when they're 13 or so. But it quickly became an issue. It's one of those, and I've read many people like this, alcoholics. When they had that first drink at 13, it wasn't just like, oh, that was fun. Park again next Friday. It was like, wow, this is how I should feel. This is how I've not felt all my life. And this is it. This is what's been missing. So basically the drinking developed from then onwards. And I don't know, it's just lots and lots of things that went wrong. Eventually one day I just looked at myself literally in the mirror and I tried to stop drinking before, maybe 5 times and failed. Most of the times, to be honest, I moved to cannabis, thinking that was the solution. And it wasn't, because I just smoked too much. I'm an addict, full stop, whatever it is. I mean, the actual day I stopped drinking, I used to have to put my hand under cold water because your liver basically is overworking to compensate for the alcohol. So you internally get hot. So every day I'd wake up, stagger to the bathroom, cold tap, hands under there, just standing there, trying to feel better. And I just looked in the mirror and I looked dreadful. I was 32 and I don't know, 55 or something. And I had tried before, but it's like, this is it. I've got to stop. I'm killing myself. I was lucky that I didn't lose my house. Came close. Had mortgage arrears several times. I didn't lose my wife. She was amazing. She stuck by me. But I did make a mess of my life. Many people had it far worse, but everyone's rock bottom is their rock bottom. And that was mine. So I just decided there and then, that's it. Today is the day I do something, I take action. So I phoned AA and found out where the nearest and the soonest meeting was, went along, and that was the start of the whole transformation. It was scary to go to AA because you hear so much about it. And I'll be honest, it's not something I've stuck with. I did it for about a year, maybe 18 months. It was a brilliant help for me. And I recommend anyone who has a problem, who's tried other things, to give it a try. You hear about the God thing. Yeah, I get that. It wasn't for me. At the end of a meeting, you hold hands and you say a serenity prayer. So what? It's just words. If you don't believe, it's just words.
Yeah.
And the book itself, the big book as it's known, does talk about God, but it talks about a higher power. And what AA say and what people in AA say is, if you don't believe in God, that's fine. Just think of a higher power as being something other than you. You've got to not think of yourself as being in total control, because you're not. None of us are. We think we are. Especially people like us who work for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it worse in a way, because you're so used to getting exactly what you want, more or less, compared with having a boss. But we sort of think the world is just a stage. It's a play that we're directing, and we can make people do what we want. And we can't do that, whether it's in business or, in this case, with drinking. So, one of the things with the AA is to give up that control of, deciding that I'm in full control myself. Which, again, to be honest, is something which I've always struggled with, because, I am in control. I made the decision to stop drinking.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to reconcile. But all I know is it worked for me.
Yeah.
I went into that first meeting, I walked out, and I'm not joking, I felt like I was 7 foot tall walking down Oldham Street in Manchester, and towering above everyone else. Of course I wasn't. I was still that. I'd had a shave, actually. I deliberately had a shave before I went, so I didn't look bad. I looked dreadful, even with a shave, but I had a shave. But I must have looked dreadful compared with most people going about their lives, going to work, and but I felt like, I don't mean in a bad way. I don't mean I felt better than them. I just felt like, wow, this is great. I'm going to solve this.
Yeah.
And for various reasons, I had a concert to go to. I didn't stop drinking till the Wednesday, but Wednesday was my last night drinking. And from Thursday onwards, that was it. And AA really helped. So a lot of people do have these worries, and all I ever say to people is try it.
Yeah.
If it helps, it could save your life. If it doesn't help, at least you've tried it. You've got to try more or less anything to get sober if you've got that level of addiction.
What would be the first step if people were thinking about contacting or using AA? Would it be just have a look on the website? I'm imagining there's resources and help and advice anyway, with that, you can do anonymously without needing to walk into a room full of strangers and stand up and say, hi, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah, well, I say I've not been for a long time. I think the last time I went was on the 10th anniversary. Mm-hmm. I've been twice since I stopped going. Once just random to pop in, but once was on the 10th anniversary as a sort of thank you. I don't know what I thought I was thanking them, but yeah, it was nice. And some of the same people there, actually. But obviously, when I was there, 2004, the web was in existence, but things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
Back then, yes, there was a website. It had a listing of meetings, but it was out of date. So I phoned up, eventually spoke to someone. Now you can go online. Everything's updated, I believe. I I'm not active. But with the lockdown, I know all the meetings have moved online. So in a way, maybe that's more helpful for some people. You turn your camera off, I suppose. You don't need to show your face. If you're worried about that, and to be honest, that's something which I would say to people, don't be worried about it. Every single person in that room is there for the same reason. Perhaps you might want to go to one that isn't local to you. I went to one in the city centre of Manchester, not where I lived at the time in Crumpsall. I went to one of their meetings once, a few months in, didn't like it for whatever reason, it was too small. But yeah, I get not going to your nearest one. If you live in a small village, for instance, that's more of an issue. But really, every single person there has got the same problem. No one is there to gossip or to, just go. But anyway, the point is we've got the lockdown, so you can't go. All you can do is go online, but they are doing Zoom or whatever technology they use meetings. So, easier. You don't even need to get out of the house.
I want to bring us back to business. So how long into that journey was before you spotted the opportunity as an entrepreneur to create the business that you kind of went into then in alcohol-free drinks?
Yeah, it wasn't actually long. I stopped in the June, and then because things had been so bad for the years before, both health-wise, money-wise, relationship-wise, and we'd made some money, Crazy Frog or whatever it was, some affiliate stuff. We booked a cottage in Wales for Christmas, and it was great. It even snowed, thick snow everywhere. It was perfect, sort of Christmas getaway. And they're having Christmas dinner, which I've never been a fan of Christmas dinner as such, but sit down meal, drinking Coke. And I've been doing that all year, drinking Coke or orange juice. But I'm not saying this was the first meal, don't get me wrong, I did have other meals before then. But for some reason, with it being Christmas Day, it felt like I should be drinking wine, but I can't because I'm a sober alcoholic. So what do I do? And that's what got me thinking, and then talking, because we were on holiday, so what else do you do? You talk business, obviously. And we got talking and just had the idea of what became the alcohol-free shop. And at first, Chris, who was my wife then, we divorced. I say at the moment, we're divorced now. But we're still friends, we still run the business together. She wasn't sure. She thought maybe it was a bit too niche, not many people would want it. I remember speaking to my dad about it, and he said, "Oh, it sounds good, but are you sure you're not the only person who wants it?" And there was quite a lot of people doubting it, but I just had that belief that entrepreneurs, and I hate that word, but entrepreneurs have that this was going to work. This was right.
Was there an awful lot of products around at the time? Because I kind of remember alcohol-free beer being Caliber, and that's as good as you kind of get, really. And there wasn't a lot of other choices, and they really had the market back certainly in the early days of that. Now I don't think you can you still buy them anymore? I don't even know that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you can still get Caliber. Caliber was one of the apparently, and this is from someone inside the trade, I can't be sure it's true, but it makes sense. Caliber is owned by the same people who own Guinness. And just say you pay £100 for a barrel of Guinness. I have no idea what it costs as a pub, but just say £100. They'd say to you, you have it for 90 if you take Caliber. And apparently that is how Caliber became the beer that all pubs had.
Yeah.
Okay.
True story or not, I'm not sure, but it makes sense.
Doesn't it? It
does. Yeah.
Nice,
Cheap Guinness. It was horrible. It was dreadful.
Terribly.
But they changed the formula at least 4 times, and it got better. But personally, I still think it's dreadful.
And I think its reputation.
Some people love it.
Did it?
No, of course not. No, because the first one was so bad. It put people off for a long time. So to be honest, there's a number of products, and I won't name any others, but a number of products that have done the same thing to the industry. They were so bad, they set it back several years. But you're right, Jason, when we started in the UK, there was hardly any products. And that was basically the reason why we started it, because we looked around the rest of Europe, and many countries, I won't say all, but many countries are so much more then and now, advanced than the UK when it comes to alcohol free.
I think then and now is just as important, because I've been first time for a while on holiday to Spain this year and last year, and was so surprised that every single beer that you could buy with alcohol in it had an alcohol-free alternative. So the San Miguel's and all of these things, and they're not that known over here. I mean, I know there's a couple now in the UK. Heineken have got a 0.1 and various other, just those. But actually, then it was just like, wow, absolutely every brand has got an alcohol-free variety, which as I say, we don't really see over here.
It's massive in Spain. I've been quoting this figure now for at least 6 years, so I'm sure it's higher. But back then, about 20% of all beer sold in Spain is alcohol-free, which is just huge. But, there's lots of reasons. Culture is totally different, as you know. People don't routinely just get pissed for any excuse all the time. In fact, my wife now is Spanish, and obviously her family is Spanish, and they just don't drink. They have maybe a 5% wine on special occasions, maybe a full strength wine, but it's like one bottle, and that's it. And then maybe a sherry or a port or something, but that's it. Whereas in my family, in the old days when we used to get together, and that'd be the thing you have at the end after all the other bottles and all the other beers and the whiskies and so on. But over here, people don't drink just to get pissed as much. Some do, of course. And that's the same in many European countries. And of course, the weather as well. It's so much warmer. You want a cold drink. Again, we do it in Britain. And please don't think I'm attacking the UK here. I do love the UK, even though I live over in Spain now. But, we do go, oh, it's sunny, let's have a drink. Yeah. And then we piss 2 hours later and, it's 2:00 or something. And obviously Spanish people are more used to this weather, so they don't do that. They know they can't. So they drink the alcohol-free and, they'll drink the alcohol at night time maybe.
Yeah, I think I read something the other day, it's something like a third of under 25s now don't drink.
Yeah.
And that's a huge number, because again,
it's crazy.
You said 13. I think I was probably 14, 15, certainly 15. I was drinking regularly on a Friday night, and that was the culture. But then that was easy for me to do because I could print off some fake ID, walk into the spa shop. I was quite tall. I had a bit of facial hair. It was like, I could get away with it. I'm sure the shopkeeper knew I was 15, but I've seen his ID. Quite tall lad, isn't he? Yes, he's 18. Whereas now, if you look under 25, we will ID check you. We accept passport, driving license. You can't.
Yeah.
It's just, we've made it harder. Therefore, I think people a lot of the younger generation have kind of perhaps seen their parents and think, Christ, they get in a right state on a Friday night. I don't want that.
To be honest, that's my theory, and it's completely unproven to me. Someone's probably proven or disproven it. But I've got this sort of idea, this theory that it goes sort of generation by generation, or you look at your older brother or your parents, depending on your age, and you see them being just say pissed because that's what they do. They're from 1975, just say whatever. So they're drunk, and you look and go, God, I'm not doing that. So then you start smoking cannabis or whatever it is at the time. And then the next lot look at you and go, God, he's just sat there stoned. I'm not doing that. I'm going to the pub. And, then do ecstasy and acid and, back and forth between drink and drugs. And obviously, most people, it's just drink. That's obvious. But, the younger people, I think, flip back and forth. And it feels like this is the first time we've got a generation who just said, actually, I don't want either. I don't need to have either. And maybe I'm out of touch. Maybe all the kids are on some drug I've never heard of. It's possible. And I know people still take drugs and people still obviously get pissed. They're always going to do that.
Yeah.
And as we know, I read this in one of your books, John, alcohol is a drug. We don't think of it that way in many ways for obvious reasons, marketing, sales. But it's a drug just like anything else. So I think this is the first time we've got this generation of people who are just saying, no, I don't need it. And also there's things to spend money on now. You know,
And there's
the old
alternatives.
day. Yeah, well,
There's
there is just so many things.
Yeah.
What's an iPhone cost? You know, top of the range iPhones, what, 1,200, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you afford that full stop if you're a kid? But how do you afford that if you're spending your money on drink or drugs?
Yeah.
You don't.
Particularly when you go and lose your iPhone because you've been out drinking.
Well, exactly, yeah. So I think there are a lot, like I said, there's a lot more things to spend your money on these days, rather than just, I was going to say kill your brain cells, but that sounds negative. I'm not anti-alcohol. Enjoy yourself. It's fun to get drunk, as long as it remains fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of the decision that people make is, it just doesn't help me, doesn't serve me, so why would I do that?
Totally.
And obviously,
well, and the other thing as well, because you're paying for education now. I didn't go to university actually, but if I had done, I wouldn't have paid because of my age.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. But back then, it was grants and so on. And of course, now you're paying what, 9,000 a year or whatever, plus. So I mean, again, young people are young people. They're going to, make decisions that may or may not be the wisest things to do. But if you're building up that sort of level of debt to get a degree, you're probably thinking, maybe I shouldn't go out and get pissed tonight on Tuesday. I should do that paper that has to be in tomorrow because, I'll be paying for this for a long time.
Yeah.
Financially, instead, in other ways as well.
So, John, it's been great having you on the show. This is the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. What does the Ambitious Lifestyle Business look like for you?
I think it's about having, doing what you enjoy for a start. Mm-hmm. I love working in the alcohol-free sector because of my history, my alcoholism. I know I could make more money doing other things. I know I could, but I just love working here. And as long as it's something I enjoy doing and it gives you a certain level of lifestyle, that's what matters. When I was younger, like most of us, you have these ideas of, I'm going to have the biggest company in the world. Why? Who would want that? Who would want to be Mark Zuckerberg or whoever? The money would be nice. Never having to worry about anything financially would be lovely. But all the nonsense that comes with it. Now, where's the lifestyle part? It's just work and stress. I'd much rather have something that a better balance of life. Something that I don't do very well, I'll be honest. I still work too much. I think you both know that from 1% Club and ALB. But working towards that.
Definitely. How has 1% Club helped you to move more towards that?
Well, I mean, the 1% Club has been fantastic. I feel like I almost want to say, I don't need to tell you, but obviously that's not the point. You do know, but anyone watching.
Tell the listeners.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to tell you because you know. No, it's been fantastic. It's been the best Facebook group or online community, full stop. I've ever been part of. And I went online in the early 80s or something on dial-up modems. It's just so helpful. It's a small group. Yes, some people come and go. Obviously, that's the nature of groups. But there's a strong core of people. And it's just been so useful to be able to get advice, to be able to say things for a start that are in a safe private space. Because obviously that's one issue. If you've got a business question, you don't necessarily want to shout it out to the world. It may be something sensitive. But it goes beyond that. It's just the level of knowledge there. The people there are so open. You both yourselves are so open. It's no one's there holding on to, I know this little secret. Yeah. It's, here's what I did. It worked for me. Hopefully it'll work for you, but let's look, let's try.
Thank you. It's very kind of you to say those things. It's good. It's what we try for in the 1% Club, is to get people into that, safe space and to be able to share and stuff, which is brilliant. If anybody,
no problem.
what you've had to say has struck a chord with anybody and they'd like to get some help or support or actually just get in contact with you, how's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, well, we just launched a new site called Alcohol Free Community, and it's actually a website on alcoholfree.co.uk, but also a Facebook group. And we did both because we thought that people would want to use the website because you can call yourself anything. You don't have to use your real name. Obviously, on Facebook, it's linked to your profile. It turns out so far the Facebook group is doing really well, and the website not so much. Which is fine because people are talking, the option's there for both. But the Facebook group is Alcohol Free Community. So if you just search on Facebook for that, you'll find us. And join. It's a private group, so you got that privacy there. But obviously it's free. Yeah, totally free. We don't charge for this sort of thing. We sell products separately, but when it comes to giving advice and helping people, it's what alcoholics do. You give back what other people gave you, and this is our way of doing that. So, and it's not just for people who are alcoholics either. It's really want to stress this. Anyone who, if you're drinking a little bit too much during lockdown or at any point, and you want tips on how to moderate, join us. There are lots of people the same. You may be an alcoholic, possibly. You want to stop. There's people there who can help. You may be sober. We've got people sober 30 years in there who are still mainly giving support to people, but also getting support from people, because that's how it works. So basically, it's for anyone who has any sort of issue with alcohol, not just alcoholics. More than welcome. I'd love to see you there.
And you're launching a podcast soon, I understand.
Yes, that's correct. And you are going to be the first guest.
I believe so. We're going to talk about my journey, because I've been alcohol free for, nearly 7 years now. So
yeah, that's right.
Where do people find that?
That'll be on the same site. Okay. So alcoholfree.co.uk or the Facebook group, Alcohol Free Community, and it'll be posted on there.
Cool. Thank you very much for joining us, John. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Glad we finally got around to doing it.
It was well worth it, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Loved it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Don't forget, guys, you can get the show notes, full video of this, full transcription of the whole episode, and a new free big idea from me every Wednesday lunchtime at our website, which is bigidea.co.uk. Hop over there and grab it whilst you can. See you next month.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.